Da, 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 da. Okay, Volume 2 of the Library of Wisdom and Compassion, entitled Foundation of Buddhist Practice, is just released. Okay, so Volume 1 was Approaching the Buddhist Path, and that was a lot of introductory material for people before you really start practicing, so that you understand what the path is all about. And then Volume 2, this volume, continues with some of the introductory material. His Holiness begins the book talking about the 4 seals that determine whether a certain philosophy is Buddhist or not. He then goes on to talk about reliable cognizers, so that we know how to test the teachings, and he describes all sorts of phenomena that we then meditate on and, see if we can cognize in a reliable way and generate those reliable cognizers. And then he gets into some other really interesting things. As we all know, in the West, the issue of choosing spiritual mentors and relating to spiritual mentors is a very thorny one that many, many people misunderstand, and as a result have a lot of confusion and trouble, and it really interferes with their practice. So His Holiness is so clear about this kind of issue. So there's one chapter, Choosing Spiritual Mentors and Becoming a Qualified Disciple. So the qualities to look for in a spiritual mentor. And by the way, charisma is not one of those. Okay? So he goes into, what we should look for in a spiritual mentor, and that we're the ones who choose our spiritual mentors. But choosing a good spiritual mentor isn't enough. We also have to become a good disciple. Okay, so we have to have intelligence and earnestness and really investigate the teachings with a good motivation. Okay. Then there's the next chapter is relying on spiritual mentors. Once we have chosen someone as one of our spiritual mentors, and we can have many spiritual mentors, then how do we relate to that person? Yeah, how do we see them physically? In interactions, what do we do? So His Holiness talks about this, and he's so practical. Yeah, because often you read in Tibetan Buddhist texts to see the guru as the Buddha. And His Holiness explains this is for people who are practicing Tantra. It's not for people before they go into the Tantric practice. And in fact, if people don't understand what this phrase means, even they're practicing Tantra, then it becomes almost like poison for both the student and the disciple, because the disciple then, for the student and the spiritual mentor, because the student, then whitewashes things and behaves in this very strange way, because we don't really know how to show respect. Okay, so because we hear often this phrase, surrender to the guru. Please, I've never heard my teachers say that, okay? But even the expression guru devotion, I think, gives us the wrong idea. Because we hear guru, we think of somebody in the clouds, radiating light, who's perfect. And then we see that person as the Buddha, then they've definitely got to be perfect. And the definition of perfect means they do everything I want them to do when I want them to do it. Yeah, which of course is not the way a spiritual mentor trains us. Okay, so, and then we hear devotion and we hear surrender, and we think that we just, are like this, and we give up our intelligence, we give up our wisdom, and we just become like little puppy dogs following the spiritual mentor. And I remember Lama Yeshe, he did not like that at all when people acted that way. Okay? Because the purpose of a spiritual mentor is to help us generate our own wisdom. Yeah, not to transform us into infants who can't think for themselves. Yeah, and so His Holiness really explains that very well, and he also talks about when things go wrong in the relationship between the spiritual mentor and the teacher, or when the spiritual mentor and the disciple, or when the spiritual mentor's behavior, it doesn't seem to conform to general Buddhist ethical standards. What to do in those situations. And so, in these times where there is a lot of confusion about these topics, His Holiness's words are so clear, and really practical. So, we have 2 big chapters about that in this book. Yeah, the book then continues to talk about how to structure a meditation session. And then it comes again to a topic brought up in Volume 1, which is our mind and body and rebirth and what they are, how they work. He discusses the essence of a meaningful life. And then when our meaningful life ends in death, as it will, then how to die gracefully and how to help other people when they're in the process of transitioning. And then there's 3 chapters about karma. Yeah, because when we think about the preciousness of our human life, the opportunities it provides to us, and then we think that these opportunities are not going to last forever, then we want to know, okay, then how do I use my life wisely? What are virtuous, wholesome activities to practice? What are non-virtuous, unwholesome activities to abandon? And that's where the law of karma and its effects comes in. And so there's a big discussion of that. And really talking about ethical conduct, again, in a very practical way, bringing up some of the topics that are that are being discussed nowadays. Let's see. Okay, they aren't listed in the table of contents, but I remember we discussed euthanasia, cloning, stem cell research, intoxication, sexual misconduct, a lot of the things that people really need guidance on. And so His Holiness discusses those. And then he also goes into some of the Abbey Dharma explanations about different aspects of karma, such as individual karma and collective karma, right, intention and intended action. I should remember how I translate things. Okay, we talked about naturally negative actions and then actions proscribed by the Buddha and the differences in the results. We talked about perceptible and imperceptible form, which is sometimes translated as revelatory or non-revelatory form, and lots on purification, on gloomy and bright karma and their effects. And so there's really, a very full explanation of karma and how it works. Okay, so that's what is in Volume 2. Yeah, and so again, like the other volumes, there are lots of reflections interspersed in it so that you can read a little bit and then instructions on how to reflect on what you read so that you can make what you read personal and integrated into your own life. Okay? So, the foundation of Buddhist practice.